It's a sunny afternoon in Texas. This group is gathering for an unusual cause. This is Texas Voices, an advocacy group for registered sex offenders and their families.
One of my foster sons was involved in a consensual relationship with a girl, and there was a 4-year age difference, and he's serving time in prison now.
There are over 700,000 registered sex offenders in the United States, all listed publicly on the Sex Offender Registry and closely monitored by authorities. This wide net catches a range of offenders from serial rapists to high school sweethearts. But does everyone on it deserve to be there?
I dated a girl. I was 19, she was 16. The cops enlightened me to the fact that she was 14 and then filed charges on me for a sexual offense.
You can go to prison for pissing out behind a 7-Eleven at 3 in the morning when they're not open and you can't use their restroom.
We looked past the label of sex offender to get to know the men and women forced to wear it. One case stood out.
Diana's son, Travis, has just been released from prison after 16 years.
In this episode, we delve into the case of Diane's son, Travis, a man re-entering the free world and facing the new sentence of registered sex offender. We'll unearth the details of what happened nearly 2 decades ago and try to answer the question, did the punishment fit the crime?
We're trying to piece together what may have happened to this gentleman, Travis Iosu.
We just wanted to see if she remembered anything about the case, because he maintains his innocence.
I know it was a long time ago, but when someone is labeled a sex offender, it affects his or her life forever.
Come to the door, man, it's mine.
There are many people in the sex offender registry that absolutely belong there. Is Travis one of them? America, it can be inspiring and beautiful. It can also be dark and ugly. It's so many things, but it's ours. It's our America. I'm in Texas, a state known for being tough on crime. There are over 65,000 people on their sex offender registry, the second largest in the nation, and they're about to add one more name. Travis was 17 years old when he was arrested for touching a 10-year-old girl's breast. He was sentenced to 20 years for the crime and is about to be set free for the first time in his adult life.
I want to make sure that we're doing it right.
You just do this back and forth and look in here.
Okay.
Today is the day before a very special day.
Who's coming home tomorrow?
My son, Travis.
Diane's world stopped 16 years ago when her son Travis was put behind bars.
Hopefully, this will be my one and only time to ever stand in front of this building. Please keep us in your prayers that is true.
It's filming. That's my baby. I love you, Travis.
I love you, Mom.
I love you so much, and I'm so glad you're home. Well, almost home anyway.
Hey, Travis. Tell me what today is.
Today is December 22nd, 2011, and I'm free.
This is Liberation Day.
Yeah.
Okay. This is his first Big Mac in over 16 years. Okay.
Travis's prison sentence is over, but he now faces a lifetime on the sex offender registry. I want to understand what landed him in prison in the first place and the challenges he will now face on the outside. My investigation starts here at Travis's childhood home in Round Rock, Texas. Diane, his mother, still lives here.
Travis's room is basically the way it's always been. The desk, the bed, the dresser.
Would you even come into this room, or what would you do when you did?
Oh, I did. I came in here and I vacuumed and dusted and went on and repainted it and recarpeted it.
So you were preparing this room for his return?
Yes. Oh, always, always. It was always his room.
It's a room frozen in time. Travis hasn't been able to return yet. He was paroled to a halfway house in nearby Austin, Texas.
These are a lot of family and friends pictures.
Is that him?
Yes, that's him. That was his 10th grade picture. That picture was probably taken about 6 months prior to his arrest.
What was he like at that age?
Well, he had a lot of mental health issues. He was a handful. From an early age, Travis exhibited obsessive compulsiveness type behaviors where he had to line things up. I have a picture here where he's lining the pots and pans.
It's an amazing photograph. So he was actually diagnosed with obsessive compulsive disorder.
Oh, yes. And then eventually conduct disorder, personality disorder, attention deficit hyperactive disorder, and Tourette's syndrome.
Despite his mental health issues, Diane tells me that Travis was never violent or sexually aggressive.
My son had never been convicted of a crime. He had a mental health issue, yet none of that was taken into consideration.
On August 31st, 1995, Travis was hanging out with a group of kids at a neighbor's house. It started out as an ordinary evening of watching TV and horsing around. But the next day, police officers knocked on Diane's door.
What did the police officers say he did?
They say that he touched a young girl, age of 10, on top of her blouse for sexual gratification, that she sat in his lap. Travis says a girl did sit in his lap and he pushed her away.
When this is all happening, Diane, did you think, oh my God, he could have done this?
I did let that cross my mind. He was 17. He had the maturity level of a 12-year-old, but this was not a type of behavior that he had been exhibiting before. But I didn't know.
Could this have been an example of his compulsive behavior?
It could have. But shortly thereafter, 2 girls that were there, 2 sisters, came and said, we were there and we didn't see this happen. I realized that, I have to believe my son.
A month later, Travis was arrested and charged with indecency with a child. At 17, the state of Texas considered him an adult, and he spent the next 6 months in jail awaiting a trial. When his court-appointed lawyer offered a way out, Travis jumped at the chance, taking a plea bargain against his mother's advice.
I told his lawyer, why should he plead guilty if he's innocent? He keeps telling you he's innocent.
Travis was released on 5 years probation. The rules were strict, a nightly curfew and no contact with minors. Within a month, Travis broke these rules by hanging out with neighborhood kids. His fate was now in the hands of the state. The prosecutor painted Travis as a pedophile likely to reoffend. He was sentenced to the maximum punishment, 20 years in prison.
I was floored. I couldn't believe that my son was going to be going to prison. It wasn't for 2, 3, 5 years. It was 20 years. I mean, he wasn't even 20 years old. And he was going to be taken away. I got to visit him for just a moment.
What did he say in that moment?
Mama, I'm scared. Mama, I'm so scared. Mama, I'm sorry. I'm just so sorry. I didn't, but there was people who had raped people, that had tortured them, who had even murdered individuals that didn't get that type of time. I felt it was wrong.
Your son is out now.
On parole, yes.
What do you want, Diane?
I want my son's name cleared. I want him to be free of having the sex offender label and being on the registry for the rest of his life. I want it off.
In Texas, most sex offenders are on the registry for life. People can petition to be removed, but it's rare. If Diane can prove that Travis is innocent, he might have a chance. Diane has told me her side of the story, but how did the state of Texas view Travis? When Travis took the plea, the investigation stopped. Now, 16 years later, many questions still remain. I've decided to go to the courthouse to see what the official record says.
So we've been allowed access to Travis's court documents. So far, Travis, I'm seeing, was charged with indecency with a child. Here are documents discussing Travis's mental disabilities, attention deficit problems, Tourette syndrome.
So far, everything is lining up with what Diane told me. But buried in the file, I come across a report by one of the officers that investigated the case.
This just seems like such a telling statement from the police officer who said, quote, "This is a kid headed for a pattern of violent criminal behavior. This kid is going to offend and we're going to have blood as a result." So it's kind of interesting that they seem to be predicting his future for him and reacting based on things that they think could happen but have not happened.
I've been presented two very different portraits of Travis. Was he a troubled but harmless teen struggling to cope with mental illness? Or a violent predator that posed a serious threat to society? And what is he like now, after nearly 2 decades behind bars? It's a new day in Round Rock, and Travis is savoring his first moments of freedom.
Everything's new to me, so I'm getting used to everything. Just sitting here looking at the sky, even though it's overcast and cloudy.
And it feels awesome, man. I enjoy this, especially in the early morning. I just love the feel of it. I was so used to being closed up in an 8x12 cell, so it's nice.
I've been in Round Rock for several days and have yet to meet Travis. He's confined to a halfway house and we're not allowed to film there. But we just got word that he's been allowed to leave for a few hours.
I think I see Travis at the bus stop.
It's not an ideal place to meet, but it's the only opportunity we have so far.
So Travis, we rushed over here because we've been trying to get a chance to talk to you, and your movements are so limited.
I know it, and I'm always checking my monitor and everything to make sure it's not going red on me.
So you have a monitor?
Yeah.
It's the hallmark of a paroled sex offender, a GPS monitor that authorities use to keep Travis under constant surveillance.
What's it like to live life with the label of sex offender?
It's not good at all because people look at me different. They behave towards me different, like I'm just gonna attack them or attack the kids or anything like that. I'm still told what to do. I can't live where I want to. It's irritating, it's frustrating, and I don't like it, and I want to change it.
How have you been getting through day to day?
Just living life. I try to think the positive. I can't change nothing in the past, so the only thing I can do is do it for today, so I try my best to enjoy life.
And you're still maintaining your total innocence?
Yes, ma'am, I am, because I am innocent.
Our meeting was cut short when Travis's bus arrived. The bigger questions would have to wait. Although I hadn't spent much time with Travis, it's difficult to imagine the troubled youth that Diane and the court records described.
Oh.
Oh, no.
Travis, take your time.
I'm stuffing with turkey here. Sorry, Carla.
Travis had psychological problems, emotional problems, neurological problems. You know, Tourette syndrome is almost like the kiss of death because people behave so peculiar that others around them just pull back.
Jose Cardenas is a therapist who worked with Travis when he was a teenager.
When you found out that Travis had been arrested for inappropriate activity with a minor, what did you think?
Frankly, I was kind of surprised by that because, you know, that kind of behavior was not something that had ever shown up before.
Is he a pedophile?
I never had thought about him being a pedophile at all.
There was nothing in his behavior that led you to believe that he might exhibit those kinds of tendencies.
Right, that's correct.
No, don't do that. Don't.
He tended to act more like a 9 or 10-year-old instead of 15 or 16. But I have no recollection of him ever being sexually inappropriate or anything of that sort.
I can blow it all the way to my face.
That was such a sad thing to happen, both, you know, to Travis personally, but also with his mother, who had worked so hard since this child was born, you know, to try to help him get what he needed.
Happy birthday to you.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas, Travis, and Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
We're here in my car, and we are going to have Travis open up a few of his Christmas presents.
Here we go. Let the games begin. Travis, from Mom. Clothes.
Oh, imagine that.
Already.
Travis is adjusting to a world that's much different than the one he left. He's also getting used to the limited life of a paroled sex offender.
I think it's down here.
He's not allowed to live within 500 feet of any place where children congregate and can only leave his residence for job hunting, doctor's appointments, or shopping for necessities.
Will that fit in your toaster oven too?
Yeah.
This trip to the grocery store is one of the few times a week he's able to spend with his mother.
Now that is $2.48.
Yeah, sometimes these coupons, combos are really good deals.
That's $1.68.
Those are $1.25.
Okay.
Okay, these are the Doritos.
And those are Doritos too.
Okay. You're going to smush your chips.
Oh.
You also want one of those.
We'll just keep them to the side here, like this. And that's what we'll do. We're going to go all the way down to this side and start out. And where would I get the Perrier?
That'll be with the water.
All right, let's see where the Perrier is.
Personally, I don't care for it. Too fizzy.
Remember I used to drink Perrier?
Yes. I
just
didn't
like
care
to do
for
it.
it then either.
I just want to do a few things that I used to do, just try them out.
I know, that's fine, that's fine.
Diane would stand by Travis through thick and thin. But I can't ignore that there's another mother whose child is listed as the victim. It's critical that I hear her side of the story.
Hi, this is Lisa Ling. Well, we were trying to piece together what may have happened that day in 1995. You do. And have you and your daughter discussed it much since? No, okay. Do you know what she's upset about, ma'am? And do you think she remembers pretty clearly what happened? You do. Based on what you know of what happened, do you think that this young man should be on the sex offender list today? You do. Okay, bye-bye. She said that her daughter hasn't wanted to talk about it because whatever happened was so traumatizing that she doesn't want to relive it again. When I asked her if she could recount what happened, she said, I not at the moment. And when I asked her if she thought that Travis should be on the sex offender list, she said yes.
The victim's mother clearly feels that something did happen to her daughter that night, something that still upsets her to this day. She couldn't provide me with details, so I looked deeper in the court file. In there, I find a chilling accusation from the victim.
She stated Travis told her to come sit on his lap and was told by Travis to pull her top down, exposing her chest. When asked why she had pulled her top down, she stated she was afraid.
It's a serious accusation and very troubling. But this case is not cut and dry. A few pages later, I find 2 affidavits prepared by the defense for a trial that never happened. Statements from the 2 sisters that Diane told me about.
This is an affidavit from one of the witnesses. She was 13 years old. We all walked together in a group. The victim did not indicate any anger or frustration. She did not cry and was not tearful. And here is another affidavit of one of the witnesses who was 16 years old. I was present in the home with all the children, including Travis. I did not see any communication or touching between Travis and the victim. I do not believe that she is telling the truth. Yeah, see, I mean, I feel like, and we have to talk to the other children who were there. Jamie, Donna, AJ,
Donna, Jamie. These are the witnesses that I hope can shed more light on what occurred. But after nearly 17 years, how do I go about finding them? Diane told me about her friend Jan, an advocate for the rights of juveniles stuck on the sex offender registry. Jan has been helping Diane find witnesses and gather more information about the case in hopes of proving Travis's innocence.
So Jan, how did you learn about Travis's case?
My daughter's friend got into trouble. He had consensual sex with another teen. I started looking for other people that it happened to. And I would dig through the records, arrest records, and I ran across Travis and I saw, wow, he got 20 years. What could he have done? And it just kind of kept eating at me, and I just could not forget him.
But this has become like a crusade for you. And given his history of uncontrollable behavior, could it have been possible?
I don't think he did it. I mean, what's his reason for continuing to say, I really didn't do anything? I mean, what more can they do to him? He's already served 16 years.
Why is this so emotional for you, Jan?
Well, when you start seeing the devastation, I don't see how anyone with a heart and soul can look at these cases and it not trouble them.
And if you are able to reach some of these witnesses, what do you want to know from them?
Did anything happen? Did they see anything? Is there any reason in their mind to think Travis had have ever acted out like that?
So you have information for AJ. Should we try to call him?
I'll call him. Hi, AJ.
Yeah.
Hey, this is Jan.
We're in luck. We reached Travis's old friend AJ, who was at the house when the incident occurred.
Here she is.
Hey, AJ, thanks so much for talking to us. I know this incident happened a long time ago, but what do you think happened, AJ?
Don't have no clue. I still don't have no clue to this day, you know, because nobody ever got in touch with me to ask me what happened or nothing.
So the police never interviewed you about this case at all?
No, never interviewed me, never contacted me, never nothing. All I know is my friend got sent away for 20 years and he had to do 16 of it, something he didn't even do.
Would you happen to have any information for Jamie?
Okay, do you know that neighborhood Travis's mom lives in?
Yeah.
The incident happened at Jamie's house, but Jan hasn't been able to find her.
And they live in a trailer house back there.
Okay, AJ.
Hopefully, Jamie can provide more clarity. But even if we do find her, will she remember a day that took place almost 2 decades ago?
I think it's the next one to the right. I'm just going to follow it around down here to the left when you get...
We're on our way to meet a possible witness. Less than a mile away from Diane's house lives a woman named Jamie. The incident took place in her childhood home.
Beware of dog. I just saw someone in the back.
Hey, is your mom home? Yeah. Can we talk to her?
Hello.
Hey, Jamie. I'm Jan. And this is Lisa.
Hi. Might you remember an incident with AJ and a couple other little boys and some very young girls? There was a boy named Travis who was accused of inappropriately touching a little girl.
Not that I can remember.
Were you ever questioned by the police about an incident in the neighborhood?
No.
You never, ever were?
No.
The incident report states that it happened at your house.
Are you serious?
Uh-huh.
If it happened at my house, that is freaking, like, I probably would have remembered it if it would have happened.
It's been nearly 17 years, a long time to remember a single event. I hope a photograph may jog her memory.
Real quick, I have a picture of Travis when he was in high school.
I do remember him. I still don't remember anything about him, but I remember his face. Oh, okay.
Jamie was only 12 years old at the time. Maybe her mother will have a clear memory of that day.
Did police officers ever come to your house and ask you about a 16-year or 17-year-old boy inappropriately touching a child in your house?
No, I don't recall that at all.
According to the report, they said they talked to the parents and the adults and all of the children.
Parents, the adults, and the children?
They didn't, because I would have remembered that. No.
Like, that is...
Travis was accused of a very serious offense, yet according to Jamie's mother, the police never visited the scene of the crime.
You would think that the owner of the house would at least be questioned by the police.
Yes, you would think they would go in and have talked to her, and they would have talked to all the kids that were there.
Why did the state decide to prosecute Travis? Was it based solely on the victim's accusation? Perhaps the answer lies with the district attorney who prosecuted the case and recommended the maximum sentence of 20 years. He declined our request for an on-camera interview, but I'm hoping that he'll answer a few questions on the phone.
Yes, I'm calling to speak to Mr. Bradley, please. I had a couple questions to ask of you. I know you talked to my producer last week about Travis Iosu. He says that
I asked the district attorney about the evidence they had against Travis.
It just seems strange to me that the police officers wouldn't speak to the adults who lived in that house.
But he declined to discuss the details of the case. However, he did bring up an important point.
So I just got off the phone with the district attorney who said the fact is that he pleaded guilty to this, and we were offering them the opportunity to go before a jury, and he refused it. I mean, he did plead guilty, so what do you do?
Why did Travis plead guilty? Over 90% of felony cases in the United States are resolved through a plea bargain. I need to understand the circumstances behind Travis's decision.
We were hanging out, and one of the girls were babysitting some kids. They were in the back room. We watched some TV and we smoked cigarettes. And then the girls came in, and one sat on my lap.
Did you touch her at all?
No, just to push her off. And who wants a little girl on their lap? Later on, we were all just walking around, and the others were taking the kids back, and one of them started yelling top of her lungs. She just said, I hate you, get away from me, and she just started running down the street.
You didn't touch her breasts?
No, ma'am. No, I did not.
This is the investigation the officer conducted. Officer Babin interviewed the victim. She stated Travis told her to unbutton her top, and she did as was instructed. She said someone had opened the back door and she rebuttoned her top running home when she changed her clothes.
That's just BS. I was never in a room by myself. At all times it was me and AJ and Donna. And there was no time for any of this. If someone opened the back door, someone there would have said that they saw something. It don't make sense.
But you pleaded guilty to the offense.
Yes.
Why did you do that?
So I can get out of jail. My attorney said, well, you had to plead so you can get out to go home.
To go home, it's all Travis heard. He tells me that he didn't understand the consequences of breaking his probation. A 20-year prison sentence. Travis was a teenager thrown into an adult prison and given the worst label you can have behind bars, child molester.
Travis needed to be kept safe from predators because he was the kind of person they would take advantage of.
Travis was a prime target for extortion. Diane tells me she spent thousands of dollars to keep him safe.
Here's a letter I'd written a lawyer that I had to send this guy in order to buy my son from the Crips gang. I mean, it was just, he was being bought by people to be used in any way that they saw fit. If I didn't pay him, I didn't know what would happen. I had to pay.
I got beat up a lot. I got my teeth kicked out, I got a metal plate in my head, collarbone was broken. I got a lot of teeth marks on my knuckles for fighting. And I got a lot of cases for fighting, so.
Were you taken advantage of in prison?
Yeah, and a lot of people are, because that's just what the system is, that's how it goes.
Do you think that because of the issues that you had, you should have been in general population?
No, I shouldn't have been in general population. I should have been in safekeeping from the get-go, and the judge even said, because of my crime, I should be in a safe place in prison, but the prison system wasn't trying to hear that.
Child molesters aren't taken too kindly in prison.
No, they're not.
And that's what you were accused of being.
Yes, I was.
So did that make it a lot harder on you?
Yes, it made it a lot harder.
Travis's time behind bars is over, but a new set of shackles has been placed on him. He's now a registered sex offender, closely monitored by authorities.
Austin, please. Where's he at? Is he awake?
No.
Well, wake him up because I don't want to startle him with him seeing me for the first time.
Yeah, right.
With the number of registered sex offenders increasing, are your days getting a lot busier?
Yeah, I would say so. I mean, we're checking on such a high number every day, every month. It's definitely one of those jobs where we're staying busy the whole entire day.
Todd, come to the door, man. It's Mike. Todd, it's Mike, man. Come to the door.
SOAR 4, code 4.
Doesn't make a lot of sense. He's been compliant for a long period of time.
And all of a sudden he disappeared.
And then all of a sudden he disappeared, and we know for a fact his wife resides here.
So had he been here, though, he would have been arrested?
Absolutely, absolutely.
Is it sometimes hard to deal with guys knowing what you know about what they've done?
Absolutely. You have to be able to separate that, though, from the job. We can't take it personal, and we don't take it home, but having the information that we have is sometimes disturbing, to say the least.
There are 5 officers assigned to this unit, and they make over 3,000 of these home visits a year.
You're his, related to him?
Stepfather.
Stepfather?
Yes, sir.
Okay, he still resides here?
Yes, sir.
Okay, sounds good.
Okay.
Thank you, sir.
So is it unusual that there are so many registered sex offenders declaring addresses on the same street?
I wouldn't say it's really unusual. It's actually very common. And as you can see, pretty much about 15 are within maybe a mile of each other.
Thank you, sir.
Why is it important that you regularly check on people who are on the sex offender registry?
I think they all pose a certain risk. They have to be held accountable and responsible, and this is us holding them accountable and responsible.
Is this what you also do with Travis Iosu?
Yes, but we did Travis last week, as a matter of fact.
So is this what will happen to him for the rest of his life, as long as he's on the sex offender registry?
As long as he's in Austin, Texas, and he has a lifetime registration requirement, he'll be checked on. He never knows when it's coming. It could be on the weekend, it could be at night, you just never know. I was looking at a book with its apartment listings, and I was just going over to see how cheap it was, and like free Wi-Fi. Some have free water and free cable and stuff like that. So I was circling in type.
Okay, I'm not trying to dissuade you from doing that. I want ultimately for you to be able to live out on your own. But first, you'll need to go ahead and get a job lined up, because anywhere you go, they're going to want to have something showing how you're going to be able to pay.
Yeah.
And hopefully you'll be able to find some type of job.
I know.
And it can be quite expensive as a move-in.
Oh, no, it's gonna be a while. I just wanted to look around, because, you know, you don't always want to live with someone. So
Oh, no, that's the other thing. The likelihood of you being able to get an apartment complex to allow you with the offense that's on your record, It's very slim.
But are there some places in Austin that have it like that?
None that I know of.
All right.
I'm sorry, Travis.
All right. Well, I'm gonna throw this away, and then we'll be ready to go to Pat Price Bookstore.
Okay.
The sheen of Travis's release is fading as he and Diane realize all the things he can't do.
He's just starting to hit the challenges in this new journey of his life. I hope somehow he'll be allowed to live his life in an honest fashion, in a positive fashion. Maybe a family, a job, maybe I would even have grandkids. I want so much for him. He's my only son.
Do you feel free?
Actually, I do. I do have restrictions, I do have restraints, and sometimes it's like chains around my knees and it hurts every time I walk, but I can't complain because it's better than prison. But I can complain because I shouldn't be here in the first place.
I wondered if Travis knew about the two sisters that came to his defense so many years ago. His case never went to trial, so these witness affidavits never saw the light of day. A critical piece of the puzzle had gone unheard.
And I don't know, have you seen this?
No, I haven't.
They said that you did not do it.
No, I didn't, and that's good.
I did not see Travis touch or approach the child in any offensive way. Travis does not treat her as if he likes her and has not shown any affection towards her as I have witnessed.
Go figure. Oh, no. It's kind of upsetting reading all this. I don't see why they couldn't see this, why they actually thought I did this. And why, at least they could have dug a little deeper.
I need to speak to Donna, the girl who wrote the affidavit in Travis's defense.
And the windows are boarded up.
Diane's friend Jan found her, but she's never spoken to her.
Hi.
Oh.
We're looking for Donna.
Well, she's not here right now. If you give me your number, I'll give it to her.
Okay. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
My list of leads is growing thin, and I'm running out of time. Donna came forward once. Will she do it again? I left Round Rock for a few days on another assignment. While I was gone, we received a call from Donna, one of the witnesses that came to Travis's defense. She agreed to meet my crew at their hotel.
That's what I recall of him. Travis was older than the rest of us that were hanging out together, and it kind of creeped me out. I thought that was kind of weird that he'd want to hang out with a bunch of younger kids, but he never made any kind of unacceptable or inappropriate gestures towards anybody. So it's not like he was a threat to any of us.
I mean, what's your gut on what happened that day?
To me, honestly, I don't think anything happened.
We gave her the affidavit she wrote 16 years ago.
While I was there, I did not see any communication or touching between Travis and the girl. I do not believe that the child is telling the truth. We felt it was the right thing to do by going forward and saying, hey, it didn't happen. He was with us the whole time. We're witnesses. You know, this isn't right. They're accusing him of something he didn't do.
Do you know actually what happened to Travis there afterwards? What kind of punishment do you think he may have received?
I believe he probably went to jail for it.
He actually got a 20-year sentence for it and
That's crazy.
spent 16.
Wow.
I'm gonna turn in my resume, try to get a job here, and it shouldn't take more than a minute or two. I'll just hand it to the receptionist and see how it goes.
Travis is eager to make up for lost time and is spending every day looking for a job.
And that was it. Easy as pie. Hey, good morning, Mom. How you doing? I just turned in my resume, so. You know, I was in prison and she was out there in the world, but it was like she was in prison too. She could only see me on the weekends and stuff like that. Hopefully, now that me and my mom are together, I can help her out just as much as she helps me out.
What does your mom mean to you?
Everything. She's like my best friend. I love her more than anything else in this world.
For years, Diane dreamed of Travis's freedom, but the reality of his release has brought pressure that she never anticipated.
Prior to Travis coming home, there were expenses, clothes, shoes, getting the halfway house set up required a portion of the first month's rent paid in advance. Before I knew it, I had to pay another full month's rent. It emptied my bank account a lot faster than I had wanted to, and it has made it a little bit more stressful for his homecoming, with me not knowing if I was going to have enough money to meet all these new expenses, because I wanted it to be so perfect for him.
It was a lonely 16 years for Diane. She never told anyone she had a son in prison. Ashamed and fearful, she hid that part of her life from the outside world. But all that changed 2 years ago when a friend told her about a group that advocates for the reform of sex offender laws, Texas Voices.
Half of the people there were sex offenders, the other half was family members, and everybody was okay with it. And I had so many answers given to me. I just wish I had found this before.
There is no one else out there that knows how we feel better than we do.
There are roughly 100 names added to the Texas Registry every week. Each person is stamped with the same stigma of sex offender, regardless of their crime.
I dated a girl. I was 19, she was 16. The cops enlightened me to the fact that she was 14. What I did in my life, I'm not a sex offender. The problem is you get treated as such, right? So you go into the system, they fingerprint you, they mugshot you.
Living with the label of sex offender makes basic things like finding a job or a place to live nearly impossible.
The victim in my case became my wife. We've been together ever since, but I can't find work. Our family five has survived this past year on $21,000 a year. She had agreed to let me...
For the last 13 years, Martin has been on the sex offender registry. A retired judge recently took on his case and worked out a deal with the district attorney that would remove him from the registry.
Those of you that have people on the registry know you don't get excited about anything until it actually happens. 9:30 Thursday morning, it happened.
Today, it inspired me to think, well, there's still hope out there for people. I want Travis to have his good name back. I don't want him labeled a sex offender.
Just fine, baby. How are you?
Travis's freedom isn't exactly what he and Diane imagined.
We're doing pretty good. How about yourself?
But they remain optimistic that life will only get better.
So this got new glasses here.
All right.
So put them on until you feel comfortable with this. Perfect.
Oh, wow.
That looks really
They're pretty nice. I love the color. I especially love the white little stripes that goes in it. And the shape is perfect, so I don't like them big, chunky glasses, yeah.
While he's not at home, he's out of prison, and I can't think that he will ever go back.
The past isn't something that Travis can change, but he and Diane hope that one day they can clear his name and move towards a brighter future. But I've found little closure in this case, and the events of that evening are still unclear to me. I've decided to reach out to the victim's father, hoping that he may remember what happened.
Hi, this is Lisa Ling.
I was wondering if I could just speak to you for a couple of minutes. Do you remember what happened that day? I know it was a long time ago, which is why your daughter and you all are sort of the key to this. He did. He spent 16 years in prison. Okay. And sir, have you spoken with her about this? So a couple of years ago, your daughter asked you whether she should come forward. The father said he thought that something may have been pretty grossly exaggerated and that his daughter was contemplating going to authorities to divulge what happened or what didn't happen. He said that she could be very worried that she would go to jail if she came out and said that she exaggerated something when she was a kid. The father saying one thing and the mother saying another. These two calls have not helped clarify anything. In fact, it makes it more ambiguous. So there's still a lot of questions to be answered.
Before I left Round Rock, I spoke to one more person, the victim. She told me that she did not want to participate in this production and relive that day, but she stated that Travis pleaded guilty. We still don't know what actually happened on August 31st, 1995. But one thing that I can say with absolute certainty is that whatever happened inside that one house on that one day changed lives forever.
I'm excited to give you an update about our own YouTube channel. Now you can find new videos every day. They're the kind of videos that will make you look at life differently. They may even make you laugh a little bit. Subscribe to the OWN channel today, and we'll see you on YouTube.